Let's get hyped. Welcome into a blackout edition of the Husker 24/7 HypeCast where nobody wore black today. Shame on all of you, myself included. I, of course, am Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Bruns, Brian Christopherson. We're Husker 24/7. And this week's special guest, who was in the dark but then decided to put the lights on, John Bishop. He is our special guest this week. We're going to be discussing Nebraska's upcoming game against USC. Can the Matt Rule against top 25 thing be stopped? Can Nebraska against top 25 be stopped? Can Nebraska win a game in black jerseys? All of these things are on the line here as Nebraska takes on USC. Bishop, let's just kind of start with this. When you think of USC football, you're a little bit older than the rest of the panel here. Who's the first player that comes to mind for you?
Charles White. That's back late 70s, early 80s when it was all about, the running backs, Marcus Allen, Charles White. That was kind of my era, and I always thought of them. It was always funny because, Nebraska was I back you. They called it tailback you. I always thought Nebraska had better running backs than they had running backs, but their running backs got more Heismans, maybe because they're in L.A., But yeah, that's the first thing I always think about when I think of USC is great running backs. And I always wondered, man, what would it be like if Nebraska played USC? Little did I know that 40 years later they'd be in the same conference and it would be a conference game. So, if you would have told me that in 1982, I think I would have fallen over.
What is the series record of Nebraska and USC?
0-5-1.
Okay. Look at that. You got the tie in there and everything.
National title team tied. I think of Rodney Peete and Top Marinovich and Weekend Update jokes by Norm Macdonald, kind of unrelated but connected to USC.
Anyone in particular that may have gone to USC?
No, just
he wasn't making jokes about Mike Garrett. I know that.
Though, I mean, Marinovich kind of wrote his own joke there for a while. Yeah. At least his dad did.
Yeah, Todd Marinovich was the first example I knew of as a young kid of a helicopter parent, like that situation. But anyway, that's my USC childhood memory bank.
All right. Brunch, you have something that you want to add here as well? For me, it's Reggie Bush, which I think is pretty common for people around my age.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like it's funny. Like USC kind of had that run around the Marinovich days where they weren't that great, and that always that was kind of like the era where I was introduced to it a little bit. So it's diving back into the history has been a little bit. You got to push back against basically what I'm saying is I'm trying to land a helicopter here. I just growing up didn't really have a ton of thoughts about USC and how great they were, and it's like, oh, this program did some things back in the day.
And there's like a 20-year stretch where they didn't do a lot, basically 15-year stretch. I don't know when that would be exactly. I know Keyshawn Johnson was maybe the first USC player that I probably would have been aware of, but beyond that, then it was easily the Pete Carroll era. And they haven't risen to anywhere near that level since. Like that was a very, very hot program that burned very brightly. And then since then, it's been kind of underwhelming. And so we'll find out what the Lincoln Riley version of USC ultimately becomes as he comes to town with this team that is good but flawed in their own way. We will start on the offensive side of the ball for Nebraska, and we will start with our special guest, John Bishop. John, do you see a world where Nebraska wins this game and Emmett Johnson has less than 20 touches?
Yes, but only if either A, they're getting a bunch of turnovers, or they have had a couple of huge special teams plays. But if this game is going to be a traditional game and it's going to have to be won, at the line of scrimmage, then no, I don't see a scenario because I think the plan from Maryland and the plan from Northwestern needs to be the plan moving forward. I think the idea of whether we want to argue if it's, if they're pacing him, if they're, holding him onto a pitch count, whatever the case may be, You have now, as Matt Rule said, we're training for November. Well, November is here. And now it's time to just go out and let it all hang out. And Emmett has been, it's gotten to the point where I went from Emmett's a good back, but he's like a number 2 back, to he's an all conference first team back. And I think he's the most indispensable player on the team, even more indispensable than Dylan. And a lot of that also has to do with, wins behind, wins above replacement, what's behind him. But when you got a guy who's basically responsible for 80% of your carries and also does all the little things and has played his best football of his career, he's your guy, and you've got to use him. And I loved what I saw last week. It was something that it needed to be done against Minnesota. Obviously, it wasn't. But I think lessons learned, and I think 20 is the floor now, right? 20 is the floor the rest of the season. You're talking at least 25, and I wouldn't be surprised in these last 4 games if he touches 30 combined receptions and runs, just because you're going to need him. And he's that important to the operation. So, it's kind of a long-winded way of answering your question, Shafe. But, yeah, unless this is a weird game with a lot of turnovers or Nebraska and Mike Eckler just break a couple of big special teams plays, Emmett's got to be a 20 to 25 guy at bare minimum.
Bruns, I know that something that you have been kind of highlighting, concerned about leading up to this matchup is just the pressure that USC's defensive front can put on Nebraska. And Nebraska coming off of another game where they only allowed 1 sack. They did that previously against Maryland. They followed it up with a 9-sack game against Minnesota. How do you see Nebraska trying to mitigate some of this pressure from USC? And do you think they can ultimately be successful when you're likely talking about a backup right tackle situation, your third string right tackle, I guess, if you would, with Turner Corcoran, with Teddy Prohaska now out and Gunnar Gatula very likely out for Saturday?
Yeah, I didn't think that Northwestern against Nebraska really forced the issue with a ton of pressure. And I think USC has to be looking at Nebraska's situation this year and thinking that they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. And I think part of it's going to be on Dylan to get rid of the ball quickly. I memean, this is not a game where you're going to sit back there and hold the ball and expect to have success. I think Nebraska's going to have to scheme up some quick stuff. And I think a lot of, if you get big plays in this game offensively, it's going to have to be a short pass, a guy breaks a tackle, and then he's off and running. It's not going to be, a deep route, a deep 50-50 ball, something like that. So, I think a little bit more of the Maryland game plan is what I think would be required in this one. I mean, USC comes in, they're averaging about, I think, 3 sacks a game, which is top 25 in the country. So, a lot of concern, I think, about their ability to kind of keep Dylan clean. Because I think if they can and they can get the ball out quickly, I think Nebraska can have some success. But, where they get into trouble is the holding the ball, trying to run the deep routes. And I just don't think they're going to have a lot of success in this game if that's how they choose to operate.
BC, the USC game a year ago was essentially the debut for Dana Holgerson. Is that correct?
It was.
Yep.
And so we've now have seen him for I think that's what?
I think it's 10 games.
10 games?
Well,
throwing the bowl game. I think we're up to
close to a year.
12 games. Yeah.
12 games, I guess.
How would you sort of assess the Dana Holgerson offense at this point? Has it kind of been as you would expect? Has it been different than you would have expected at this point?
No, it's been about what I expect, in the sense that, like when he talks about, like ratio, it's about like spreading the ball out to different guys. It's not getting caught up in the run pass ratio 50-50 necessarily. And I think every week, whether you've liked what's happened or not liked it, that comes to the forefront. It's an offense that's going to try to get the ball to different people, make the other side cover the whole field. I guess what surprised me, and I don't know that it's all on Dana, it's not all on Dana, is if you go back to August, July conversations, I think we were working under the premise that the O-line would be a little sturdier than it's been. I just don't think it's probably lived up to sort of the preseason billing, as far as I know. The sacks are spread around, but just some of the stuff that's gone on up front, they've had their good moments, but it's been choppy. And I think at times he's had to work around that, honestly. And, what Brun said is right, though. In this game, it's not just the O-line. The ball's got to come out quick. And I think you always hear Dana say, just put the ball in play. Like, that's going to be the biggest key to this thing. Just get that ball in play, and then hope, you have those 2 or 3 plays where a guy breaks a 4-yard route and turns it into a 50-yard route. Like, that's what's going to happen, I think, on Saturday. I guess if there's one disappointment, it's been the red zone offense, which connects to this game really well because USC is so good down there. And if you think back to last year in Los Angeles, that was the difference somewhat. Nebraska had those 2 trips in the third quarter. One of them should have been a PI, no question, if you remember. But they had 2 trips where they had to settle for field goals, and they end up losing 28-20 because of it. So this is going to have to be a day where Isaiah Hunter, Dane Key, somebody makes that toe-tapping type of catch, I think, on a 12-yard touchdown. They're going to need that kind of play.
Bishop, Isaiah Hunter, who BC just mentioned, returning back to his home state of California, how would you kind of assess his play in his first go-around with Nebraska? And he sort of has, at least in my mind, emerged as maybe the most consistent of Nebraska's weapons so far this year.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I mean, you look at his regular stats, his EPA stats. It's the best on the team. It was funny because I thought in the preseason run up to the season, all the talk was about Key. There was some talk about the tight ends and the depth in that room at that time. But I thought Isaiah kind of flew under the radar. He's become almost as good in fact, honestly, he's become a better big play threat even than Ja'Cory Barney. Some of that's been, the way Barney's kind of been limited the last 2 games. But, when you look back at some of the biggest plays of the season, the screen against Michigan State, the toe tap last week against Northwestern, and Isaiah Hunter has been the best of the receivers so far. I mean, if you take out, Barney being the special teams guy as well, but I think he's been the best of the group. He's got the most targets. He's got 4 touchdowns. Like I said, his EPA is really good this season, and he's been everything you could have possibly wanted. And I think he's got to be a part of this game plan as well. Not that Dane Key has been a disappointment. I don't think he has been. It's funny because when you look at the targets of Nebraska compared to the targets of USC, we think so much about those USC wide receivers, but it's really been Lemon who's gotten the vast majority of the targets. You look at Nebraska, and it's very balanced. The top 4 guys in targets are all within 7 of each other. Hunter 41, Johnson 38, Key 35, Barney 34. And if you want to take it one step further, Lindenmeyer 29. So when Dana talks about balance, they've got it. I mean, no one person is out there, in the stratosphere in terms of targets, which is good because it does make you have to cover the whole field. You can't just focus all your attention on one guy. But when you look at some of the big play potential this year, Hunter's been like the most consistent one. So, I think of the group of receivers, he's been the best so far, but it's not one of those things where, the others haven't made their contributions and don't have good contributions left in them.
Brunts, we'll kind of finish up offense with this. Is this the sort of game we've seen Nebraska be aggressive throughout the year? They've gone for it on 4th down inside of opponent plus territory. They've left points maybe on the board a couple different times this season by going for it instead of attempting field goals. Do you think this is a trend that continues against USC? Do you think they have to be aggressive, or do you grab points when you have the opportunity to grab points early in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the opinion when you got a home game like this, you take the points early on. Like, I I fear that it's going to become a track meet, but I think if you can, especially early on, if you can get some points on the board, you can feel good about things. I think that just kind of helps you settle into the game a little bit more. I mean, we've seen through the years at Nebraska when you've had this buildup around games like this, where it just feels like the game almost becomes like too big, and I fear that that's the case. That can be the case again. But I do think, I mean, if you have a chance on the first drive to cash in on some points, take the points. I know that's maybe not what the card says, and we always bow to the card, but I do think this is a team that if you get up early, you just get some positive things going. I think that would benefit Nebraska a ton. So will they do that? I doubt it, but I think there's some value in that.
Let's dive over to the defensive side of the ball. We'll go right to Brian Christopherson on this one. BC, Sierra Wright said he had no idea that USC was on the schedule this weekend when he was standing up in front of the media after the game against Northwestern. Do you believe him?
I'm not going to call Sierra a liar, no. I mean, it seems like he would have known that, but I don't know.
Given the amount of family likely to attend this game
Yeah.
in particular.
Yeah.
Don't they have like a giant schedule thing in the complex somewhere?
Yeah, they do. I mean, you're making the case that maybe he told an untruth there, but yeah, he probably had this one circled. I mean, obviously last year started off with a bang for him with the pick six. And he actually remember he had to leave the game briefly on the next series. And Nebraska gave up a touchdown. So I remember last year how chippy it was between their side and Sierra. These two teams got after each other. And so I don't know what the question you were aiming for with Sierra, but I think partially connected to that, but also based off of last year, this game's going to have a little juice to it. On the field with the sides. I don't know. I think there was a little more fire in that game than some others last season.
It felt personal.
Yeah.
Admittedly, that was a throwaway question that BC Ever the Professional gives us a pretty nice answer to. So
well, we still have a picture in our system of them pointing in Sierra's face, in that game. And he's such an interesting story. He didn't share it this week, but after the game last year, he had a personal moment I saw when we were going into the post game with Matt Rule, where they're like hugging, and I just think that this place has been great for him. Like he got a second opportunity with his football career, and for a guy to become like the leader of the team, basically in a span of 14 months, is rather incredible. I guess that's modern college football for you but he's really become that guy who's like the player voice in the locker room during and after the games.
We'll go to John Bishop here. We saw Jaden Maeva a year ago, and in a short amount of time, using the Lincoln Riley system, he has become a much more efficient quarterback. When you have watched USC this year, and I'm not sure how much you have watched, but when you have put eyes on Jaden Maeva, what seems different to him about you than the guy last year who threw, I don't know, like 7 interceptable passes, and Nebraska maybe came away with just one?
Yeah, I remember the talk leading up to it. It was like, it almost felt like they were resigned to play him last year against Nebraska, and he ended up having a decent game. But this year, I mean, it just goes to show you what another year in a great system with a great offensive mind can do for you. He's playing with a ton of confidence. He's not afraid. I mean, even though they lost this game, some of the throws he made against Illinois, you talk about a guy who wants to just rip it and trust his receivers. It's Maeva. I mean, he was throwing into tight windows. He was making all the good throws. His yards per attempt is over 10, which is ridiculous. His completion percentage is up about 10 points from last year. It's not as high as Dylan's, but it's still really good, especially for the depth of his targets, which are a lot, longer than Dylan's. He's just playing with a ton of confidence. It's just another product of that Lincoln Riley lineage of all the great quarterbacks that he has had. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to compare him to all those other guys necessarily at this moment, but he's certainly trending in that direction. And I'll be curious to see how he handles this experience, because on the road, the splits between road and home have been dramatically different. USC is still a good team on the road, but they're not nearly the same as when they play at home. And then you're going to add in the atmosphere, the night kickoff, cooler temperatures. I'll be curious to see how he responds to that, because outside of the Purdue game when it was raining, they didn't really play in any inclement weather. Not that Saturday's going to be brutal by any stretch, but how he handles all of that, how he handles a really hostile road atmosphere will be really fascinating. I guess they did play in the rain against Notre Dame as well, so maybe that'll help him out. But he's just playing with a ton of confidence right now, and I think if there's an opportunity, we talked about it earlier with the turnovers. He is gonna trust his receivers and maybe try to force something in there on occasion. And Nebraska's just got to make a play. You were mentioning Sierra Wright earlier. This could be one of the great debates in the postseason. All conference teams. Sierra Wright's likely not going to have any stats of significance. He's got 5 pass breakups, but he has no interceptions. And if you're just one of those people that look at stats, you're going to say, well, yeah, I've heard of this guy, but what has he done? The coaches will probably end up voting him first team, and they should, because, he basically shuts off his side of the field. But if you're a person that, is looking for the splash numbers, you're not going to find them. And, it'd be nice if Sierra could get one of those, but I don't know if he will. Now, this week will be an interesting test, because I think they will challenge him, partially because they think they can, and secondly, because a little bit of arrogance. And I think this is an opportunity for Sierra to make some big plays in this game that maybe he's not going to get or hasn't gotten so far this year. And I hope he gets the chance to take advantage of them.
Brunt, we spend a lot of time talking about the injuries that Nebraska has, the players that won't be available. Certainly just did that a little bit earlier. USC has their own kind of thing going on, particularly on the offensive line. What do we know about the Trojans and who will or won't be available for them on Saturday?
Yeah, they're coming off a bye, and it sounds like there's still some question about who's actually going to be healthy and where guys are at coming back from things. They've obviously, the issues they've had with health at running back have been pretty well documented, and they haven't really missed a beat there at all, which is a nice thing to have if you can. But no, I think the offensive line thing is interesting. How Nebraska kind of chooses to play this game defensively is going to be fascinating too, because I think we've seen the last couple of weeks some different versions of aggression from Nebraska. It didn't feel like it was there much at all against Minnesota. And, when Nebraska forced the issue against Northwestern, they had some success. USC obviously is certainly able to take advantage of, Nebraska trying to blitz and bring extra rushers. So that's going to be something that they're going to have to kind of figure out. But you're facing the top offense in the country that can throw the ball, they can run the ball, and that this is going to be a really, really big challenge for just John Butler's game plan and how he adjusts to what happens in the game. Because his own admission, he got spooked against Minnesota. You're going to give up big plays in this game, and you're going to have to just keep playing. They talk about that with players, just play the next play. It's going to be the case for coordinators as well, and how they kind of call this thing.
Let's get to predictions. Our pick to click for Saturday night's game against USC. We will start with Brian Christopherson.
I'll take Luke Lindenmeyer. I think this is a game where he slips out as a safety valve on some key plays, and he gets one of those where he just gets it in space and everybody stands up because he knows he's going to go for like 30 yards type of rumble. So I just think he might find the end zone and have like a 60, 70 yard kind of game that is pivotal, and maybe a key third down or two as well.
I'll jump in here. I'm going to go Deshaun Singleton. Comes away with an overthrow from Jaden Mayava as he gets an interception there, one of Nebraska's takeaways on Saturday. Brunt.
I'm going to go Deshaun McCullough. Nebraska's going to need some pass rush. I think McCullough can bring it. He's that guy that seems to always make a play or two that's a little bit splashy. I think you're going to need that to keep the crowd and the pressure on USC. So I will go with Deshaun McCullough.
John.
I would like to go 2-2 offense defense, but I'm going to join the two of you on defense. I'm going to go with Sierra Wright. I think this is an opportunity for him to make another play like he did in last year's game, and this will be the first time I think any team really tries to challenge him. And who knows? I mean, USC may still have some success, but I'm really going to be fascinated to see how he responds this year with another year under his belt and how positively he's been talked up this year. So I think Sierra Wright is my pick.
All right. It is oddly specific prediction time. I've got a simple one. Nebraska forces 3 turnovers from USC on Saturday night. Not 1, not 2, 3. Deshaun Singleton interception, I already mentioned. They will get a turnover on a punt when USC muffs it. I'm not sure if it's going to be the sort of muff because he just doesn't catch it cleanly in some of the precipitation, or if a guy happens to get into his line of vision, but Nebraska comes away with the ball on that one as well. And then the final one is a stripped sack from Nebraska on Saturday night from Brunson's boy, Deshaun McCullough. And the Huskers have 3 takeaways, just getting people fired up in the elements on
What's
Saturday.
the sack thing you talk about? What is that?
It's where you touch the other quarterback and you bring him to the ground while he's attempting a pass play. He has to possess the ball for it to count, though.
You've seen it, John. You've seen sacks.
Well, you do root for the Rams. They seem to pile them up.
They do, but
yeah. Hey, you know that Rams-Vikings game, Sam Darnold? The 37 times that happened where Darnold was on his back in January, those were sacks.
Okay, all right. It's good to know. Here's a dumb question for you. If they allowed Nebraska to get a sack because we treated it like a practice and Maiyava's in the green jersey, how many sacks would they get? Could they just get to him and touch him and get a sack?
I'm actually worried that he's elusive enough that that's harder than it seems like it should be.
Okay, good.
I think that'd be a real concern. Bruns, what do you got?
I think Nebraska is going to return a punt for a touchdown in this game. That's my oddly specific one. I think it's going to be Ja'Cory Barney. I think he's going to find a lane. I think it's going to be a little bit on the longer side. I'll say a 63-yard punt return for a touchdown for Ja'Cory Barney. He weaves a little bit to get there, but it feels like this is a game that just cries out for a big special teams play, and I think Ja'Cory Barney makes it happen.
We'll go BC.
Officials will be under the microscope again. Javen Wright will seemingly force a fumble in the first half, but they're going to rule the arm was going forward after much debate. Crowd's going to be insane about it. Later in the game, Emmett's going to spin out of a tackle where his knee's almost brushing the ground, but not, and he's going to get like an extra 2 yards to get the first down, but they're going to rule him short. They'll go to the review, and they will get it right this time, but they'll be like just the kind of Philly crowd. It's going to be a Philly crowd like they want, I think, and they're going to give them the old Bronx cheer. So there'll be that. I think Nebraska will fake a punt too. It's going to be a deal where Archie's running and and USC, because of the cold, their minds just aren't going to be working quite like they do on the West Coast. I'm saying that kind of as a joke. I thought that was an overplayed storyline yesterday. I don't think it's going to bother them, but the cold's going to get in their heads and Archie's just going to take off and run for like 15 yards.
All right, John, you got a lot of oddly specific predictions to follow up here.
Oh yeah. First off, I want to do a conditional one. If Bruns's prediction comes true, then my conditional prediction, oddly specific prediction, is that Mike Eckler will concuss somebody on the Nebraska sideline.
Targeting.
Better hope it's not ruled.
Yeah, yes. He will concuss somebody. I don't know who. It could even be like a photog. It could be a passerby. It
Would
could
it
be
count as-
himself,
Oh, okay.
though something tells me he's been concussed many times and it really doesn't matter anymore. But my real oddly specific prediction is that Nebraska will have the longest rush of this game, and it will happen within the first 15 plays.
Whoa.
Yeah, longest rush of the night will come from Nebraska. I'm not even going to say it's just Emmett. It's likely Emmett, but I won't even. I will just say that it's,
Iowa, 73 yards down the sideline.
I mean, it could be like the Ohio State scramble where he ran for, what was it, 35, 40 yards. It could be, but Nebraska will have.
He's looking around, wondering who's going to hit him. He's still
And then he does that awkward flop to the ground. I mean, he apparently went to Taylor Martinez slide school, but yeah, Nebraska will have the longest rush, and it comes inside the first 15 plays.
All right, it is time. Will anyone take Nebraska? I think the line last I saw it was 6.5. I don't know how much it has moved since then. USC the favorite. I have USC winning 24-23 against Nebraska on Saturday night. Walk-off field goal for the Trojans to leave the crowd a little bit dismayed. BT.
I kind of hope someone picks Nebraska because I'm going to pick USC in a tight one, 31-26, but I don't think this should be a clean sweep game, so I'm trying to get someone else to go the other side of this. But, yeah, I don't know. I just I have some worries that a couple explosives are going to show up with that USC offense that make it difficult. So I'll take USC 31-26.
We'll go Bishop.
Oh, good. I'm glad Bruns has to do it because
I saw your face. I knew what I was. I knew what I was doing.
I mean, I look at it this way. Maybe we get the 4 across Trojans logo, and then someone takes a screenshot. And,
yeah, there you go.
And that ends up being, the social media tweet from Nebraska football. I just think there's too much offense, and Nebraska can't get to the quarterback enough. I think Nebraska will keep it close, but I think USC is going to get a backdoor cover. I've had 31-21 stuck in my head all week, so I'll go Trojans by 10.
Brunt?
A lot on Brunt's shoulders here.
I've been setting I set myself up for this pick with the Ja'Cory Barney prediction, so I'll do it. I think Nebraska, if they win this one, and I will predict that they do. It's got to be a bit of a stupid game, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
it's one of those where you get a special teams score. Schaefer, you predicted 3 turnovers, right?
Yep.
You're going to need 3 turnovers. You're going to have to ride the wave of USC's explosive plays, and you're going to need to find a couple yourself to make it happen and really kind of ride the wave of the crowd a little bit as well. So all that said, I think Nebraska, I'll say Nebraska 30, and that's not all offensive points, man. And I'll say USC 27.
Look at that.
There you go.
You bullied Brunson to making the pick.
Yeah. Kind of felt like that, yeah.
It did.
But he made the pick.
He did make the pick. He could
they
be the smart one amongst us on Saturday night after this game.
I agree, though. It's probably going to be a stupid game if that happens. Just one of those weird, maybe one of those where USC's got more yards or better yards per play, or something where if you just look at the box score, you're like, oh yeah, USC won the game, and then you see the turnover column, and it's like, oh, this is interesting, and then special teams doesn't usually show up in a box score.
Yep. Dumb game. That's what you're hoping for.
All right, Bishop, where can our good listeners enjoy your weekly content or daily content?
Daily content. 1620 The Zone on radio, thezonetv.live, 1620thezone.com, our YouTube channel. Everyone's got a YouTube channel these days, so you can find myself and Josh arguing over stupid things like dumb debates and things like grading the week in football. So that's where you can find us, 1620 The Zone, anywhere that you look at it online. Download the app. I don't trust that it works all the time, but you can download the app as well.
You have a Saturday preview show as well, right?
Yeah, Severe and I will do a pregame on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg from underneath the overpass, the Blur Parties folks. That'll be at 4 p.m., 4 to 6. And then we will fight the crowd to get over there. It's a bottleneck when you're trying to cross 9th Street. So, that's why Severe and I get there with about 10 minutes to spare.
Hey, you make it. You're there in your seat. We see you. You walk by us right at the the kickoff. You sometimes missed a coin toss. I think that might be the only.
I've missed a coin toss or two, but yeah, it's usually not bad. I think it's going to be a huge bottleneck this week because people will be tailgating late into the afternoon.
And the weather. All right. Well, that's what we have for you here on the Husker247 HypeCast USC edition. We will see how it all plays out on Saturday night. And, of course, we'll have all the coverage that you could want or need at Husker247.com. So we invite you to get there. We invite you to stop by our YouTube page, check out Husker247 Daily. Monday through Friday around 10 a.m., we have stuff for you every single day. All right. We'll catch you next time.